And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Today we're going to talk about the impossible task that is being a school board member right now. We're also going to talk about, there was a new report put out about annual deaths in the United States because some of the stuff is always backtracked. So the 2019 numbers came out as of 2021. So we started comparing it to some different things, and we were kind of fascinated by some of the stats, some of them related to COVID, some of them not, just like the actual total numbers of different things. So we're going to touch on that. And then we're going to talk about James Franklin, Penn State football a little bit, USC rumors, and obviously a big game coming up this Saturday. Before we get to any of that, you have something planned because you're way too intrigued by me about asking this question.
Well, I put my phone down because you always yell at me when I'm on my phone when we start. So I heard the music, I put it down, I'm focused.
How are you feeling today?
I do have a good answer for this today because
okay,
I'm a little proud.
I could tell right away.
I'm a little proud because there's this, we have these idiots in our lives that put these thoughts in our head, and I have one. I won't mention any names, but you can probably see him on this half the screen. And he told me this thing about intermittent fasting like 18 months ago. And I had done really, really well with it. I know we've talked about this in the past. Yeah. And one of the things I learned from not just this moron, but this other yucca puck that's out in the hall right now, was about that cheat days, because your body adapts. Your body's so adaptable that cheat days on the diets are important.
Yes.
If you don't have cheat days, your body kind of adjusts and defeats the purpose of the diet.
Correct.
So you need to have your cheat days.
Correct.
So I got into a good rhythm of it was just like a job. Like weekdays I didn't cheat, weekends I cheated, and I ate, at 1 o'clock in the morning and all that stupid stuff you're not supposed to do. Yeah. But I was really good. And as you said, it's 12 hours. You're looking for a 12-hour fast. Basically, you can have clear.
That's your minimum to where they say your body starts to kick in to not starvation mode, but your body starts burning the energy you have stored.
The stuff that you want to burn, your body starts burning it. And, immediately 12 hours, it's a long time. But if you work it around sleep, if you can go a little bit before and a little bit after. And it was just kind of became part of life. This summer, for whatever reason, I got lazier with it. Okay. And it was much more intermittent. I would cheat on a Tuesday night. I would cheat on Thursday. I would get to and before I was really patterned, and this, I kind of got into all right, let's get in the flow of it. School's back in, life is back in the world. Right. And I started this Monday, and Monday, you're all gung-ho the first day. Last night I was laying in bed and I was hungry. And I was just thinking about a bowl of blueberry, because it is blueberries. Do you ever eat blueberry cereal?
Never had blueberry.
Oh, it's delicious. It only comes out at Halloween now.
Okay.
And so I have a box of blueberry in the cabinet, and I was thinking how good it would be, but I held strong.
Good for you.
And so I made it through to this morning. So it was probably 14, 15 hours I think I got before I ate. And I feel really good because I almost caved last night. And if anything's going to make you cave, it's a bowl of blueberry.
I was going to say blueberry is where it's at. That's
the thing about it too that has fascinated me too is in as you explained this to me, you eat whatever you want. I had ice cream. That's the last thing I ate before I quit for the night was ice cream. Right. Because of course the diet is healthy along with it. So I just had a cheesesteak for lunch. Yeah. It's not like I'm eating salads and fruit, which I probably should eat more salads.
If you do that, it obviously helps. It expedites if you have a weight loss goal or whatever it is, it obviously expedites it. But you can pretty much eat for the majority of the time whatever you want if you're eating it in that window, and you will casually burn weight. You will lose it over time. I need to get back on it. I have not done.
You've been eating watermelon.
I've been eating well, but I haven't been doing the intermittent fasting. So I need to figure out how to combine. I need to figure out how to be better about doing it. I need to find that 12-hour window for me.
It's what's crazy to me, and this is just another example of it. It's how quickly your body adjusts.
Yes.
If you ever go from one job to another job, or you switch shifts on a job, and how you're oh my God, I'm never used to getting up that early. I'm never used to staying up that late. And then you start, how quickly your body gets into a rhythm and figures it out. So that has changed, because I know I've said this before. I ate right before I went to bed because I didn't want to lay in bed hungry because I thought it hurt. And then when I get up in the morning, my routine was shower, eat every day.
Yeah.
And now I don't even really want to eat in the morning.
No. It's overrated.
So there you go. So yes, I'm proud of myself today. Now tomorrow I may come in and be like, I fell off the wagon.
The only downside is if you like breakfast foods. Like if you like breakfast foods, I understand why people don't want to skip breakfast. But after a week or so, like you adjust very quick.
Well, and there's the thing, I love breakfast foods, but I remember reading this too, and it was somewhere. First of all, cereals are bad for you.
They're awful for you.
Like there is nothing
I love
good.
Cereal. It's so bad for you.
You know why you love cereal? Because it's delicious.
Yes, it's so bad.
But really, you'd be just as good about eating the box as you are eating what's inside the box.
The other problem too is I fill the milk up as high as possible,
and then keep refilling.
And then I finish the milk. So like from like a weight loss standpoint, I mean like I'm just drinking milk left and right.
Well, yeah,
so that's not great.
But the other thing is with the pastries and donuts and stuff. I read an article once that said Americans have turned breakfast into dessert. Yeah. That breakfast is supposed to be fruits and nuts and grains. It's not supposed to be a jelly-filled donut
and syrups. And,
So, and when I read that, I was like, yeah, it is true. Like there's almost this belief that, you have a stop, hit the drive-through and you get a good healthy breakfast, and you don't. It's really bad. Breakfast is a really bad meal if you're not careful.
It makes a ton of sense. Today we're going to start off with task as we black out the impossible task of a school board and its members. Obviously in our local area, and I'm sure it's this way across the state and even in parts of the country as well, school board meetings taking place, trying to make decisions. You brought up the idea, and you and I have talked about this before, just the impossible task. It would be difficult to be a school board member 2 years ago. There would be questions like, why would you want to be a school board member 2 years ago? Today, I have no idea how you do the job. I have no idea why you would want to do the job. The whole concept of a school board just fascinates me negatively and positively. I like it. So I think it's an interesting topic that you and I can touch on today about just what's happening locally around us.
Well, I listened to hours of the Matorsville School Board meeting went on for 5 hours last night with no vote. Yeah. It was mostly discussion. They had some county business to take care of that they had to vote on things and hires and resignations and stuff like that. But it was mostly discussion of mask policies.
Yeah.
And one of the things that one of the school board members mentioned is the Matorsville School District, the school board just got sued by certain members of the community who are claiming child abuse of the masks. And one of the things that one of the members said is, listen, we understood, like when you hear lawsuit, he didn't say this is me saying, when you hear lawsuit, you think like these people screwed up and there's these people that are they are going to straighten things out and they're going to get this corruption out. And the guy on the school board's like, listen, so let's look at it the other way. What happens if we got rid of masks and went against the state mandate and some kid got really sick and ended up in the hospital, worst case scenario, dies? We're going to get sued for that too. So it's not like you're like, if you do it this way, you're going to get sued. We knew if we do it either way, we're going to get sued.
Yeah, no, it's an impossible task.
And that's the aspect that the thing that I heard, and what's neat about me is I don't really have a mask. Like, I hate wearing a mask. I have mine right here. I carry it now. I never wear it, but I carry it just in case I went into a meeting here once within the last 2 weeks. I needed a mask.
Sure.
So I hate wearing a mask, but I'm vaccinated and I wear it when I'm supposed to because but so I'm kind of a middle of the road. But when you listen to the passionate people on each side, it's funny listening to these people because they'll say to the other, just do what's right. Well, what's right is an opinion. It's like, what's right on 4th and 1? Should you go for it or should you punt? Should you kick a field goal right is an opinion. So for one side to stand up passionately and say, just do what's right, I don't know how they lose sight of the fact that the other side just as passionately thinks the opposite thing is right.
Sure.
And I also hear people that say, like, I heard this multiple times, you're not being open-minded about it. You feel like you're dug in. Well, so is your side. Both sides are dug in. The passionate people. Both sides are not going to be swayed by anything the other people say, especially when you yell it and it's insulting. And I equate it to where we are in presidential politics right now, regardless of who's in, whether it's Trump in, whether it's Biden in, whether it's whoever's in the office, that they say, I want to be bipartisan. What they mean by that is, I want the other side to come vote my way. And it's just this, it's a whole fascinating process. And when people get gorged up in emotions, gorged, is that a word? When people get all revved up with emotion, there was a caller last night, because the meeting was on Zoom, or however you want to say it, a speaker who is he's basically a caller. And he said that there's only one school board member who cares about the kids in the district, that all the other school board members look at the kids as commodities. Well, just off the top of my head, I know one of the school board members still has a kid in the district. Mm-hmm. I can think of at least two off the top of my head who have grandkids in the district. So and then that's the other thing, that people get riled up and if you disagree with me, you're either some form of stupid or evil or somewhere in between. When it's no, that's not really, this is just how they feel about it. Right. And it's fascinating to me how intelligent people lose the whole, you agree with me or there's something really wrong with you. My way is right, your way is wrong. And it's laughable.
I don't know how you fix it. One of the things that you had brought up is you brought up this idea of formalities, and you brought up the idea of there's this procedure, and they try to be very formal, and it's a school board meeting and you're trying to do all of this stuff and take votes. But the problem, I think if you're a member of the community, that is your chance to speak. And so I don't know how you change the policy, or I don't know how you fix that, because to me, as a younger, naive person who hasn't been through the full scope of society yet, I have always viewed the school board as a chance for your voice to be heard. It doesn't mean that they'll necessarily act on it, but it is your chance to speak on it. And so if that as a citizen, if that's how I'm using the school board as my chance to speak, I don't know how you clean it up. I don't know how you make it more sustainable, I guess. Right. I'm not sure how you make it more functional, because the process itself lends itself to being unfunctional. You're going to have passionate people, you're going to have people dug in, so I don't know how you fix any of that, which comes to the point that I kind of made earlier. I just don't know the value of being on a school board right now, which is awful, because I'm not saying every school board member is great, but I would imagine that there are some school board members that you said aren't bad people, and they're going to walk away because it's I don't need this. I don't absolutely. I don't have to do this. I don't need to do this. And so I don't know where it's all heading if that's going to be the case. I already saw a lack of value of participating as a school board member. Now, I wouldn't touch it. I used to joke I would never referee, because why would I want to referee? I almost view school board members the same way now. Why would I ever want to be a school board member?
You know the difference between referees and school board members?
They get a whistle and they can throw people out.
Keep going.
That's all I got.
They get paid.
Well, yeah, referees get paid as well too. But see, I don't know if bringing money,
for 2 hours of people telling you you're an idiot, at least you get a check.
Right. I don't know if getting, personally, my initial gut reaction, thinking out loud, is money doesn't fix it. That's my initial gut. And I'm not saying you were saying to...
There would be no refs if it was voluntary.
No, the other way. I'm saying with school board members. Oh, yes, saying, I don't know if bringing money into school board members fixes it. I just think, you brought up the idea of it's very old fashioned. There's formalities, and you have to vote on things, and you have to table things, and and you said some of this stuff just feels kind of antiquated, and it just feels do we really have to do this?
Well, the example I gave, and not to cut it, but during the meeting, there's a part, Montourville is considering hiring an assistant superintendent. And one of the school board members, because the meeting took 5 hours as it was, and one of the school board members says, let's push this off to the next meeting. This isn't urgent.
Yeah.
Let's push this off to the next meeting so we can do a little more research and have a little more discussion, which seems like a very common sense issue. And when you say it that way in layman's terms, let's push this one off to the next meeting, everyone gets it. They had a 5-minute discussion, whether it was called tabling, whether they had to make a motion. They had to ask the solicitor, what's the legal jargon of, do we table it? Do we have a vote on delaying the vote? Do we have to do this? When all the guys like, let's just move it to the next meeting, and everybody understands what that means, and like we get to the point where we try to be so sophisticated that we've lost common sense.
Sure.
And we shouldn't spend 5 minutes on trying to figure out the legal way to say something that everyone understands what he said the first time.
Sure.
So anyway, but we've also to go on to the other. Rumors of school board members walking out at many local districts.
Yes.
And that's not good, because then you can get to the point of, if someone wins the election that you didn't agree with, do you just harass them to death until they just say this isn't worth it and they walk away? And that's a slippery slope to get onto as well.
It is. It's a very slippery slope. So I'm not sure what the solution is. I will say, like, 5 hours is a long, like, in 5 hours too, with like no resolution. And I don't think people expected a resolution, or, like I said, it's a chance for people to voice and speak out. But boy, like 5 hours with no resolution. I mean, you and I talk for 45 minutes some days, and I get off and there's no resolution, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what?
You have 45 minutes, you leave, you're like, I'm not talking to you the rest of the day. I said, I'll text you, and you're like, don't bother.
So I mean, 5 hours is tough. So I don't know where school boards are heading, but I don't, like, you and I think out loud a lot, and we'll talk about, like, we don't know the answer. I do not know the answer to solving like a school board and how you make it valuable for both sides. And like, it's hard. I think it's one of those things that it feels like the process hasn't changed in forever. And it feels like we're just getting to the point where, like, to continue to do it the way we're doing it, you end up with these 5 hour free-for-alls where, like, nothing actually happens. Like, it's just, I would use the word antiquated. It's not that it's an awful system. It's just old, and I don't know the value anymore.
Well, and I just to say in general, obviously, you don't know the school board members of different communities and stuff. And I'm sure that in places there are some shady guys or women who have agendas, who are on the school boards for the wrong reasons. But the vast majority of people, of these people, like, I just say, God bless them, because the community needs them. We need good people doing it. And I think what you and I are saying is, like, this is not a school board members issue necessarily. Like, what we are saying is, like, they are in an impossible situation. Yes.
And so how do you ever get anything done? How do you ever come to an agreement? I mean, it's just very, very difficult.
I got to tell you this, you'll get a kick out of this.
I'm ready
for it. Let me pull the text up, because the Montoursville school board meeting ended at 11:59.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they had a curfew, and they're like, I don't think they did. I think it just happened. But started at 7. It was a little late, 7:10. But it's essentially a 5 hour meeting. So I'm awake at midnight because I've listened to 3 straight hours of this. So I'm like, who else is awake? So I text a friend of mine who lives in Colorado, because I'm like, okay, it's only 10 o'clock there. So and I just said, are schools fighting relentlessly over mask mandates out there? The response was, I wouldn't say, quote, fighting. Our district simply fired the health department. So, like, it's madness. And we talked, I think we talked last week. There was an article last week on NCPA, how Los Angeles school district is requiring vaccinations.
Yeah.
So this is like, and the other thing, just to wrap it all up, as we talked about, the same day that, or within 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever, that Muncie chooses to go with no masks, or mask optional.
Sure.
South chooses to go mask optional. Montoursville and Hughesville, at least that I know of, have hours and hour-long board meetings with no votes. Williamsport has 2 elementary schools that have to shut down and go remote. and the borough of State College throws in a mandate that you have to wear masks indoors, and that's not school related. That's borough, any building.
Right.
So it's crazy that one side says they're absolutely right and the other side is absolutely wrong when you look across the broad spectrum and you have people on all over the place.
Oh, it's the Penn State one needs to be like a case study, because you're going to have a community where you have to wear a mask indoor, but then at a football stadium with 110,000 people shoulder to shoulder, no masks at all. I mean, that should be a case study. It is just the thinking behind it. And again, I'm not saying pro or anti. I'm just saying like the both sides and the logic, I can't wrap my head around it. I can't wrap my head around the idea that these people are going to have to wear masks indoors, but they're allowed to go to a football stadium with 110,000 people without one. And so my whole thing is like, they can't both, like you said, like it can't both be right.
Well, and that's what a lot of the I call them anti-mask, just to be clear. But you know, all the people that spoke wanted the mask optional. We'll leave it at that. The optional mask. It should be a choice. If you want to wear your mask, wear your mask.
Sure.
But some of the people are like, listen, here's their school day. Here's where they have to wear it. Here's where they have to wear it. Here's where they have to wear it. Here's where they don't have to wear it. They don't have to wear it in gym class. They don't have to wear it in the cafeteria. They don't have to wear it here. They don't have to wear it at soccer practice, football.
Right.
So there is a lot of, when you look at the whole system, it's like,
Someone used the word to me last night. They said everything just feels glitchy. And I couldn't, that's a very new age word, but it does. It's not pro mandate or anti mandate. It's just none of it aligns. And so even if you're in the middle of this conversation, you just look around and you're like, it just all feels so off balance. Like nothing adds up to me.
And it's impossible to make it balanced.
Yes.
When you look, and to go back to take it all the way back to our original point, there were at least 2 school board members who said, listen, I say pro-choice. I am pro-mask optional. They're like, but because of I voted for the schools to mandate masks or to require masks because of the mandates, because I know how the system works and the fallout, both financial and it could be bad for us.
Right.
I wish, my personal belief is mask optional. But knowing the law and knowing what I know of being on the school board, that I had to vote the other way. And that's why we talk about they're in an impossible position.
They are. And just to take it one step further, we had somebody here in the office who was at the protest yesterday at Geisinger. And they were protesting against the vaccination mandate outside of the hospital for employees. And one of the people said, I am vaccinated, I'm pro-vaccination, but I'm against the mandate that my coworkers would have to get this shot. So you want to talk about just blurring the lines and just how many different viewpoints and takes there, that's, to me, that is the perfect of how confusing this all is.
Well, it's you can be on the abortion issue, you can be pro-choice, but your choice is to never have an abortion.
Okay.
So just because you're pro-choice doesn't mean you're pro-abortion.
Yeah.
Pro-choice just means I believe that people should be able to make the choice, but my choice would be this. Your choice might be different.
So imagine the conversation you and I just had the last 3 minutes, and now we're school board members, and we've got to go and vote. And we have to take a vote and try to make a policy on this stuff.
Right.
It is brutal. So here was one of the other news stories that we saw, and you and I kind of started diving into it in a different way. So multiple sources have come out and said.
Wait, we just wrap that up with school board members. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Get them.
I don't know what else to tell them. It's I don't. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't know what else to tell them.
It is bad. Okay, sorry.
So multiple sources have come out. When you do the math, they're saying that 1 in every 500 U.S. residents have officially died from COVID-19. So that is the official math on it now when you look at the total deaths that are being reported and the total population of the United States. That conversation got you and I talking about what are the actual odds of dying for different causes and different reasons in the United States, just to try to put some type of relevant I don't want to call it a spin, but to just give it context and to kind of wrap your head around what that looks like. So there are actually official statistics for 2021 or 2020 when it comes to the cause of death. However, if you go in 2021, they recently released these statistics for 2019 in the United States. So these are the odds of you dying from something in the United States as of 2019 from our government. You have a 1 in 6 chance of dying from heart disease. You have a 1 in 7 chance of dying from cancer. You have a 1 in 27 chance from dying from chronic lower respiratory disease, 1 in 88 suicide, 1 in 92 opioids, and 106 and 107 were falling or motor vehicle crashes. So those
now these are of people that died.
Those were the top 7, and these are the people that died. So if you die, so the average person doesn't have a 1 in 6 chance. It is if you are going to die this year, you have a 1 in 6 chance of it being heart disease.
The thing that shocked me most about those is that suicide was so high.
The suicide, I wasn't shocked is strong, but yes, the 1 in 88, I don't know how many people realize like how many people die from suicide every year.
It was the 4th leading cause behind heart
in
disease,
2019.
Cancer, heart disease was first. Heart disease, cancer, lung respiratory issues, and then suicide. So in 2019, more people died of suicide than by car accident.
Correct.
I would have never guessed it.
So, okay. And then we have gun assault, 1 in 289, pedestrian incident, 1 in 543. Then you get down, once you get into like the 100s, 500s, thousands, you get to drowning, fire, choking on food,
lightning,
sunstroke.
What's my chance of lightning?
In 2019, lightning was 1 in 138,849.
And the funny thing about that is I just watched a movie with Angelina Jolie in it last night where she kind of got struck by lightning and survived it.
Okay. Thank you.
So she's
not in that statistic.
Not in that
avoided
statistic.
that statistic.
Now it may have been fictional.
You think so? So here's just trying, because we wanted to wrap our head like, what is 1 in 500 Americans? So first you have to figure out how many people actually died, because you can't use the 1 in 500. It's not a fair number when you're comparing it to the other deaths that occurred in 2019. However, when you go back, the math that I came up is it's right around 1 out of every 8.59 is the number that I came up with when I sat down and did the math. So if COVID would have been here in 2019, it would have been behind heart disease, it would have been behind cancer, and then right behind those two things would have been COVID.
But right in the ballpark, because heart disease was 1 in 6, cancer is 1 in 7, and
COVID would be 1 in 8.59.
And that makes sense because there's, over the last 2 years, and I know COVID kind of showed up a little bit. COVID was like 3/4 of 2020, and we're like 3/4 of 2021 so far.
Yes.
But there have been about 333,000 deaths each year if you just divide it in half. And that's like 10 times the number of car accident deaths. There are in the 30s every year. I did some quick research, 33,000, 34,000, 37,000. There's somewhere in the 30,000 range of automobile deaths every year. COVID is 10 times that.
Yes. So now this is the other take that I will give on this, because I think it just goes to show how people are, I think it's always more in the middle than people ever will admit to or realize. So I think there's people that see the 1 in 500 on CNN and it's just like, well, this is a disaster. Like, this is the worst. And there's people that see that 1 in 500 and they're going to say, well, 1 in 88 die from suicide. 1 out of every 6 is from heart disease, everything else. I think what this really shows is like, we don't take other things as seriously as we probably should. So even if you think the COVID and the mandates and everything's overblown, what I would say to you is the fact that 1 in 6 people die from heart disease every day, it to me like says we probably don't take that as seriously as we should.
Well, I think in life, we only take the things that really matter to us or things that have affected us.
Sure.
If you have a relative with with diabetes, you are much more in tune with the diabetic community than those people who don't. And it's just what has touched your life.
Yes.
And those are the things that matter. And there are a litany of things that we know are important,
right,
but they haven't affected us. And
it's a longevity issue too. Like heart disease, like, not to sound corny, heart disease is the silent killer. Like, you just kind of go through life and you don't really think about it. And then all of a sudden, too many carbs and too much grease. And the next thing you know, like, you're lying on a table. So there's this idea of just like, can you physically see it in front of you, the result of your decision and what's going to happen to you? I will say this though, and it was brought up. I told you about watching Bill Maher, and sometimes Bill Maher says stuff and I vehemently disagree with him. And sometimes he says stuff and I'm just like, he nailed it. The other day, he had mentioned about how, like, nobody's talking about your own physical health. No one's talking about your own personal health, and how the majority of people that have died from COVID were obese. Like, they were out of shape. Now, some of that is because, like, they were older, that kind of thing. But there's this idea that, like, obesity, when you talk about, like, flat statistics, like things that are proven, like they are undebatable, one of those statistics with COVID is that the majority of people who have died have been obese. I think the statistic that he read off was 82%, I believe, of people that have died from COVID measure out to be obese. So there is this idea of, like, we're talking about mandating this and mandating that, all those things. I think one of the most interesting points that someone brought up on that show was the idea of, like, if you're pro mandating this or pro mandating that, should there be a physical health mandate? Like, should there be programs and things implemented that if you're concerned about something that has a 1 in 8 chance of all the deaths in America, should we be more concerned about something that has 1 in 6 chance? Now, I'm not as pro mandate as other people in my life are, but I will say, like, I think it's a fascinating question that if there's something out there that causes 1 in 6 deaths, but we don't want to talk about it, I think we probably should be talking about it more if we're going to spend this much time talking about COVID and the mandates and what's right and what's wrong. I think it's a worthy conversation to have.
Well, I think so, but you can't make people have the conversation. And in the news industry, which we are in here, and you talk to anyone who's been a writer, and the blip is, if it bleeds, it leads. Yeah. Because when you're reporting the news, there needs to be an interesting, intriguing part to it, or people just aren't going to read it.
Sure.
And we put out articles here that people read by the thousands, and then we'll put out articles here that people read by the dozens. And it depends what people find interesting. So yeah, it's just not a sexy topic to talk about.
No, but I think it's more towards the middle than people realize. I think COVID is something to be taken seriously. I think that we should be doing things to help. But at the same time, like, I think there's this 1 in 6. Did you know it was 1 in 6? You knew it was heart disease and cancer.
I knew heart disease was ahead of cancer because people would think that, but I knew they were close.
Yeah.
But I didn't know exactly, Yeah.
But
you figure out of people that die, like, they got to, 1 in 6, basically a third of all deaths are either heart disease or cancer.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me. I might even think it would be more, because then you've got to come up with the other.
Well, by 2021, it probably is more. Because the only statistics we have are 2019, and that's what we have to go back and base it onto. But I don't know. Anytime I see a number like that, I'm always curious to try to wrap context around and talk about it. And so you and I sat down and we started trying to figure out what it is. So it was higher. 1 in 8.59 is higher than what I thought it was going to be.
Well, and the other crazy thing that COVID's going to do is it's like when AIDS came out, or HIV, whatever you want to talk about, that it killed you, but it killed you through pneumonia. It killed you because it just destroyed your immune system. So people were dying, they were dying of HIV, but it was of pneumonia, and COVID is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not, a heart attack is a heart attack.
Right.
But it's destroying other parts of your system. So the statistics aren't really all that. Well, did they die of this or did they die of that?
Right. No, I agree with you. The only other one on here that surprised me, it was the sharp objects. So like knives and like you always read about like stabbings and stuff like that. Stabbing sharp objects was 1 in 29,334. I thought it would have been higher than that. But again, if it bleeds, it leads. So my subconscious, I probably see stabbings in the news all the time. So I subconsciously assume people are just getting stabbed all the time.
So now my thing, this is crazy where my mind went, is is stabbing more of a Hollywood you can drag it out longer and it's more dramatic? Because doesn't it drive you crazy in movies when guys get shot and you're like, oh my gosh, they're dead, and 90 seconds later they're running down the alley, and you're like, didn't he just take a bullet to, like, I get, but he's got to be in bad shape. And
yeah, I don't know. I've never been shot.
Well, I haven't either, but I can only imagine. And with stabbings, I think Hollywood-wise, it's more believable. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know either. We would have to ask somebody.
And the knife fight in the one, was it John Wick 3? The knife fight was fantastic. And you can't have that knife fight with guns because one bullet and the guy's down.
Correct. Do you want to guess?
Do you not know the knife scene? Have you not seen John Wick?
I've never seen John Wick, but even if I did, I also I also know that John Wick probably isn't the greatest example when talking about the relation to deaths by sharp objects.
You know why? It's not the great, because John Wick is unkillable.
That's right.
John Wick will never die.
I get it.
He once killed 3 men in the bar with a pencil.
I would like to ask you a question. Are you ready for it?
I thought we were at a serious part of our discussion.
No, we're
I
far
have
from
all
it.
3 of the John Wick movies, and I will give them to you as soon as you return the other movies I've given to you that you never watched.
Never. You want to guess the dog attack odds? Your odds of dying from a dog attack in 2019?
No.
No, you don't even want to guess?
I don't have a guess.
Okay. 1 in 86,781.
See, and this is my thought process of all this. Like, as I joked about lightning strikes, like, not that being struck by lightning there's no good way to die. It's not like that's fun. I think dog attacks are awful.
Oh.
I think they are just...
I'm with you.
Kids with Rottweilers, and it is
it's bad.
Awful.
The other one that we were kind of fascinated by when we were digging into this, the cost of heart disease. Do you remember?
Oh, it's $350 billion.
It is incredible. So between 2014 2015, and they're going to, apparently, according to the American Heart Association, they are going to do the numbers again. They were supposed to do them in 2021. Obviously, that didn't happen with everything else that's going on. But in 2014 to 2015, the United States, the cost of cardiovascular disease was $351.2 billion. That includes healthcare services, medicines, and lost productivity due to death. $350+ billion price tag on heart disease.
Huh. It's a lot. It doesn't surprise me.
It is incredible.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Really incredible. All right. To end the show today, you wanted to talk about James Franklin. They have a big game Saturday against Auburn.
And you know their chances have I told you their chances of losing to Auburn on a whiteout?
No idea.
0.
No, probably. And then
and Auburn's 2-0. I don't know who they beat, but they're Auburn. They don't suck.
No,
there is no way Penn State's losing on a whiteout.
And then USC's head coach was let go, which of course started the rumors of would James Franklin leave Penn State to go to USC.
There was rumors before. This coach was like an interim.
This is not new.
They lost to Stanford, who wasn't supposed to be any good. They only lost by 14, but I think they were down like 42-14 at one point. They kind of rallied to make it close, but they were like, that's it, you're out. And now the rumor mill's starting again.
Okay.
So our debate was, James Franklin's a Pennsylvania guy. That is, I think he's out Pittsburgh way. Isn't that where he's from? I know he's from Pennsylvania.
He's from Pennsylvania. I don't know where he's from originally. I believe he's a Shippensburg grad.
Okay.
Or East Stroudsburg grad.
So that,
I might want to double check.
I mean, so that changes things a little bit. Penn State would be more of a dream job for a Pennsylvania guy than for a non-Pennsylvania guy.
Sure.
So we're debating, is USC a better job? What are the pros and cons? I said, obviously, they have a storied tradition. They have multiple Heisman Trophy winners, whether you go back to some guy named OJ. They had Reggie Bush, they had Matt Leinart, they had national champions.
James Franklin went to East Stroudsburg.
He went to Stroudsburg?
Yes.
But, it's in California. But in California, there's a lot of competition. And just recently, there was no NFL team for a while. So USC was the biggest football game in town. Now, not only are the Rams back, the Chargers are there. So has it diminished that? And, I don't know, but so there are debates, all things being equal. Even if he wasn't a Pennsylvania guy, say he was from Minnesota, is USC a better job than Penn State? Yeah. And that's a fair question.
As a non-Penn State fan, it is not. The USC job is very similar. Like, I know it's California, I know it's West Coast. Like, I know those benefits in itself, but they remind me of like the West Coast version of like a Nebraska. Like, they have not been good recently. And this idea that they're like this top 5, top 10 powerhouse, and it's just not true anymore. It's not real.
Well, not in the last
decade. It happened to Texas quicker than it happened to USC, because there was this concept of like, well, Texas will be Texas and USC will be USC. And the reality of it is like, they're not right now.
And the question becomes, how quickly can they get it back? The follow-up question, because where Penn State is geographically, Penn State is the biggest dog on the porch up in the Northeast. You go out to Ohio State, not that far away, and Penn State has to compete with Ohio State, and that's one of the issues. But when you go west, when you go like west of the Mississippi, west of Oklahoma and Texas, which Texas still has its prestige, USC has to be the best job.
No, it's probably Oregon. It's probably Oregon.
Maybe.
No, it's Oregon.
Like, I don't know if it's definitely Oregon.
Today, it is Oregon. It's not.
I mean, yes, today, because Oregon just beat Ohio State.
But that's what we're talking. Like, we're not saying does James Franklin want to be the head coach of USC in 2013. We're saying, does James Franklin want to be the head coach of USC in 2021?
But for the next 10 years, and for a decade, would you rather be at USC or Oregon?
If I'm just looking at college football, if he wants to live by the Pacific Ocean, that's a completely different conversation.
Well, Oregon's by the Pacific Ocean too.
Correct. I have no idea how.
I thought you were saying USC was better than Oregon.
No. I'm saying if James Franklin wants to go to USC and be by the Pacific Ocean, like, that's fine. Like, cool. Like, that's a lifestyle choice. If you are strictly talking in the confines of college football, no. Like, Penn State is a better job than USC.
But keep in mind, for Penn State to be great, they have to get to the tournament. And the way the tournament is set up now, they have to get through Ohio State because they're in Ohio State's
division.
USC
has to get through Oregon.
It's not that
different.
I think it's way different. I think it's way different.
Why?
Because Oregon hasn't competed for a national title in a while.
Didn't Oregon just beat somebody?
They beat Ohio State the other day.
Oh, weird.
But yeah, it's
weird.
But like, Mariota was there, but since Oregon has been, I mean, they are certainly a team since Chip Kelly left. Oregon has been good, but Oregon hasn't been a national power in the last half dozen years.
They are significantly more of a national power than USC is, and it's not even close right now. It's not even close. The recruiting power and what Oregon is able to do is not even comparable to USC right now. USC and Texas are very similar. They are schools that just this idea of like, we're Texas, we're USC, and it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter who your coach is and what your recruiting style is.
Oh, absolutely.
Those things matter. And Texas and USC didn't think it did, and it does.
Absolutely. But when you look at Clemson, for a long time, Clemson was just another team.
Sure.
From Bear Bryant for a while, Alabama was not this.
Sure.
And you look at schools like, for a while, Florida State was going to be good every year. Miami was going to be good every year. Florida was going to be good. And so there is an ebb and flow.
Correct.
And USC has ebbed and flowed. Before Pete Carroll, they weren't very good for a while. And then Pete Carroll may have been good because he was paying people. So that may have helped.
But other than the fact that the Pacific Ocean is there, if you're James Franklin, what do you think? Like, what is the benefit to going to USC?
Because they have all kinds of money. It's a private school.
You don't think Penn State has all kinds of money?
Yes, but Penn State.
So then what's
because USC doesn't have to go through Ohio State.
Yeah, you're going to have to go through Oregon, and you know who has just as much money and the backing of Nike?
Oregon has a couple bucks.
It's not that different. It's just, do you want to live in PA or want to live in California? Thankfully, James Franklin is from Pennsylvania. So I'm not saying James Franklin won't take the USC job. I'm just strictly saying, like, from a college football perspective, like, this idea of like, oh, well, it's USC and it's not. Like, if you ask anybody my age, USC is not this like glorified. No one cares that they had Reggie Bush. No one cares that they had O.J. Simpson. Like, none of that matters.
But they
don't care.
They have
a 17 or 18-year-old kid does not care that USC had a Heisman winner. They don't care.
Well, and I listen, I get that. But there's an aspect of, from James Franklin's standpoint, if they're going to pay him just as much, and like the other aspect here, Franklin takes a lot of heat, and Penn State wins a lot.
Sure.
Like, he is far from beloved, considering where they were after the whole Sandusky thing, and what they have like the most wins in the country for a team that hasn't made the tournament.
I think we hear it more, don't you?
Well, yeah.
I think if you live in Maryland, I bet you James Franklin is seen as like much more popular in Pennsylvania than if you actually live in Pennsylvania.
Correct. But since he lives in Pennsylvania, he goes to Southern California. He gets a lot of money. He gets better weather. He gets a more exciting Tinseltown life. And he probably gets a 3-year honeymoon where nobody's beating him up because they're not very good, because he says, I just got here and it's not my fault yet.
James Franklin does not strike me as the kind of guy who's doing anything.
Tinseltown?
Who's doing anything outside of football.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But does his wife want to?
Isn't she from PA too?
I think so.
I think she's from PA too.
I just do that.
I'm not saying...
what were we at? Wasn't Russell Wilson? Did you watch any of the broadcast with the Manning brothers on Monday Night Football? Did you check any of that?
No.
It was kind of cool. And they had Ray Lewis on for a little while. They had Travis Kelce on for a little while.
Okay.
They had Russell Wilson at the end. And there was some big award show.
Met Gala.
The Met Gala. Russell Wilson's wife was at the Met Gala.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm home because of I couldn't go because of football. But they had a picture of her.
Yeah.
And it was cool as could be. I don't know. Is his wife famous?
Sierra. She's pretty famous.
Is she a singer? Actress?
She was a singer. I don't know if she still is, but she was pretty popular.
Okay. She has a number 3 Seattle dress on that was sequined, and it was really cool. But he was like, yeah, my wife went to the Met Gala. I couldn't go. I'm home watching the football game, talking to you guys. So it was funny. So yeah, so maybe his wife is like, hey, you go do your thing. I'm going to red carpets. You never know.
I do know. That one I do.
You know?
I'm not saying he won't go to USC, but that one I know. It won't be because his wife saw Sierra walking at the Met Gala.
So you're saying you're the next basketball coach at UCLA.
Nope.
And your girlfriend is sitting courtside rooting you on instead of going to red carpet?
Probably.
You're lying.
First of all, if I'm the head coach at UCLA, like, why does that get my girlfriend into the Met Gala?
Because you're the head coach at UCLA.
No. Who's the head coach at UCLA
right now?
Yep.
It's not what's his name anymore, is it?
So the fact that you don't know, the fact that you don't know,
I know who it is. I know who it is. It's the little bald guy that was at Cincinnati, right?
It is.
What's his name?
Listen, all I'm saying is
it's the little bald guy that used to be at Cincinnati.
Yeah, can I finish my statement?
He had cancer too, didn't he?
I don't know, but all I'm going to say is that the little bald guy from Cincinnati, if that's what his name is, his girlfriend isn't getting into the Met Gala.
If you gave me like 3 minutes, I could come up with him.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Give me his name.
Absolutely ridiculous.
You don't know his name. You're trying to look it up.
I'm not. I'm staring at our comments.
What's his name?
Someone said screw USC, so that's a good one.
What's his name? Help me out.
Mick Cronin.
That's him. The little bald guy from
Don't
USC.
Act like you just thought of it.
I wouldn't have got it, but I knew who he was. See, I told you, we've discussed this. I suck with names, but I knew where he coached before. I can see him.
Okay, but the point I'm making to you is his girlfriend's not getting into the Met Gala. Like,
that's not
probably
married. So
it's not a perk of being the UCLA head coach.
But but on the West Coast, she's getting into red carpets. Like,
you think so?
Absolutely.
Because her husband's
he's the
head
UCLA.
coach.
Absolutely.
You're insane. We can go through the list of the Met Gala and we can see how many wives of college head coaches were there.
No, I'm not saying the Met Gala. I'm saying all the stuff that happens
like
at UCLA.
Scooby-Doo, the red carpet for Scooby-Doo 3. Like, what are you going?
First of all, Scooby-Doo 3 is probably a big film.
not real, but I don't know.
They have red carpets all like there's a lot of stuff going on in Hollywood. And I'm guessing the head basketball coach at UCLA gets invited. And if he says I'm not coming, his wife takes his ticket and her own +1.
Do you know what's overrated?
What?
Red carpets.
I don't disagree.
Okay, so there you go. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. And thank you to all of our title sponsors. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news, and we will be back tomorrow. Any advice before
and thank you to Mick Cronin. And you were impressed that I got the little bald guy from Cincinnati. You didn't think I had any idea who the coach at UCLA was.
I still don't think you have any idea who it is.
It's
you needed me to say the name.
He had cancer. Didn't he?
I don't know about that, but you needed me to say his name,
well,
and now you're trying.
Else about him,
you're like, boy, you were impressed. I knew that.
I told you I
suck with names.
Even know the I know everything else about him. What else do you need to know?
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Why do I put up with